My name is Emily, I'm 29, and I surprised my family with a dream vacation to Hawaii, only to have my entitled sister try to hijack it and kick me off the trip. Before I tell you how she ended up homeless and begging to come back, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It all started with a knock on my door a few months ago. The kind of hesitant knock that tells you whoever is on the other side is at the end of their rope. I looked through the peephole and my breath caught in my throat. It was her. My little sister, Cassie. She looked broken. Her usually perfect blonde hair was a tangled mess, her designer clothes were wrinkled as if she'd slept in them for a week, and her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were puffy and red. She was a ghost of the curated perfection she presented to the world on Instagram. When I opened the door, she just stood there, shivering slightly, though it wasn't cold out. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Finally, her voice, barely a whisper, cracked through the silence. Can I come in? To understand the weight of that moment, to grasp how a golden child could fall so far, you have to understand the ecosystem of my family. The Morgans operated on a tilted axis, one that always spun around its brightest star, Cassie. There was one set of rules for me and my brother, Jake, rules of responsibility, of duty, of knowing our place. And then there was the Cassie rulebook, which had only one entry: whatever Cassie wants, Cassie gets. Any mess she made was magically wiped clean, any failure was reframed as someone else's fault. Usually mine. I learned this lesson early. I was 12, and my grandmother, a woman of impeccable taste, had just given my mother a stunning, antique porcelain vase for her birthday. It was Mom's prized possession, placed in the center of the mantelpiece like a museum piece. One afternoon, Cassie, who was 8, was tearing through the living room in a fit of sugar-fueled energy, chasing our terrified cat. I warned her to slow down. She ignored me. A moment later, there was a sickening crash. The vase lay in 1,000 glittering shards on the hearth. When my mom rushed in, her face a mask of horror, Cassie's acting career began. Tears streamed down her face as she pointed a trembling finger at me. Emily pushed me, she wailed. She did it. It was such a blatant, ridiculous lie. But my parents, desperate to soothe their hysterical baby, bought it completely. I was grounded for a month and had my allowance docked to help pay for the damages. Cassie got a bowl of ice cream with extra sprinkles to calm her nerves. That was our life in a nutshell. I was the reliable, responsible wallpaper. Jake was the quiet observer. And Cassie was the main event. This pattern was woven into the fabric of our lives. When I was 16, my passion was the piano. I practiced for hours, losing myself in Chopin and Debussy. It was my escape. But one day, my parents sat me down for a talk about finances. Belts had to be tightened. My expensive piano lessons were the first thing to go. I was devastated, but I understood. I was a team player. A month later, that tightened belt seemed to miraculously loosen when 12-year-old Cassie decided she wanted to be a ballerina. Not because she had a passion for dance, but because she saw a movie and thought the tutus were pretty. They enrolled her in the most prestigious and expensive ballet academy in the city. Jake was the only one who saw my silent heartbreak. He found me in my room, staring at the closed piano lid, and just sat with me, not saying a word. That was his way. He understood. Cassie, of course, quit ballet after 2 months. Her verdict? Too much work. There were no consequences. The money was just gone. The ultimate proof of my second-class status came with my college acceptance. I'd worked relentlessly through high school, and it paid off with a full academic scholarship to a great university. It was the proudest moment of my young life. My parents' reaction? A distracted, "Oh, that's nice, dear. We knew you would," before changing the subject. There was no celebration, no party. But a few years later, when Cassie scraped by with an acceptance to a local state university, the one she would unceremoniously drop out of after her freshman year, you would have thought she'd cured cancer. They threw a massive backyard barbecue. The whole extended family was there. I remember standing in a corner, watching Cassie hold court, soaking up the praise. My cousin Olivia, who has always been my rock and my reality check, came over and handed me a drink. "It's not right, Em," she said, her eyes flashing with anger on my behalf. "You earned a full ride. She barely passed high school. You deserve this party, not her." I just nodded, forcing a smile, because causing a scene was not my role. My role was to be supportive. To be quiet. To be invisible. So, I built my own world. I excelled in college, landed a fantastic job as a project manager at a major tech firm right after graduation, and slowly, carefully, constructed a life where my worth wasn't determined by my parents' approval. I loved my family, I truly did, but I learned that loving them from a safe, emotional distance was the only way to protect myself. Then, about 9 months ago, everything changed. I led a project at work that had been a massive gamble for the company. It was months of sleepless nights and relentless pressure. But we pulled it off. We launched successfully, and the results were staggering. As a reward, the company gave me a bonus that made my jaw drop. $50,000. It landed in my bank account, and I just stared at the number on my phone, feeling a dizzying mix of shock and validation. I had no idea what to do with it. A down payment on a condo? Invest it? It felt like too much responsibility. That same week, my grandma Martha, my dad's mom and the family's no-nonsense matriarch, called for our weekly chat. In her usual understated way, she dropped a bomb. "You know, your parents' 30th wedding anniversary is coming up next month. 30 years. Can you believe it?" And just like that, the $50,000 had a purpose. An image flashed in my mind, a faded photo on my parents' dresser from their honeymoon. They were young, tanned, and beaming, with the dramatic landscape of Hawaii behind them. They always spoke of that trip with a wistful sigh, a dream they always meant to repeat but that life, mortgages, kids, responsibilities, had pushed aside. This was it. This was my chance to give back, to do something so undeniably good and generous that it couldn't be ignored or dismissed. The idea took root and blossomed into a full-blown obsession. For the next 3 weeks, I became a secret travel agent. This wasn't going to be a budget trip. This was going to be the vacation they deserved. I booked 5 first-class, lie-flat seats on the best airline. I reserved 2 oceanfront suites at a breathtaking 5-star resort on Maui for 7 nights. I meticulously planned an itinerary that balanced relaxation with adventure, a private helicopter tour over the island's volcanoes and waterfalls, a sommelier-led wine tasting, a sunrise hike to the top of Haleakala. For their anniversary night, I arranged a private, candlelit dinner on the beach, complete with a violinist. I even booked a scuba diving certification course for me, Jake, and Dad, something they'd always talked about doing. I poured my heart, my soul, and a very significant portion of my bonus into crafting this perfect gift. Jake was my only confidant, and his excitement mirrored my own. "They're going to lose their minds, Em," he kept saying. The night of the reveal, I cooked their favorite meal and had everyone over. My hands were shaking as I stood up to make the announcement. "Mom, Dad," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "I know your 30th anniversary is a huge milestone, and I wanted to do something to celebrate how much you both mean to me." I handed them a beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a custom-made photo album. The first page had that old honeymoon photo. The following pages were filled with glossy brochures and printouts of the resort, the helicopter, the tickets. My mom's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. My dad, a man who rarely showed emotion, had tears streaming down his face. They just clung to me, whispering, "Emily, how? We can't believe it." It was everything I had hoped for. Jake was cheering, already planning his surf lessons. And Cassie? For a moment, she was swept up in the excitement. But it quickly became clear that her excitement was filtered through a very different lens. "Oh my God, the content we're going to get," she shrieked, her thumbs already flying across her phone screen. "My followers are going to be so jealous. I need to go bikini shopping, like, tomorrow." A familiar wave of irritation washed over me, but I shoved it down. This was for my parents. I wouldn't let her attitude tarnish it. That resolution lasted exactly 1 week. That's when the first call came. "Hey, big sis," Cassie chirped, her voice oozing a sickly sweet condescension. "So, I've been thinking about this Hawaii thing. You're, like, a total workaholic. You don't know how to have fun. Why don't you let me take over the planning? I'll make it, like, 1,000,000 times better. It'll be an actual vibe." I was taken aback by the sheer audacity. "Thanks for the offer, Cass," I said, keeping my voice even. "But everything is already booked and paid for. It's all set." "Ugh, you're so controlling," she huffed, and hung up. An hour later, my mom called. The gentle, persuasive tone she used whenever she was running interference for Cassie was instantly recognizable. "Emily, honey. Cassie is just so excited. She feels a little bit left out. You know how she loves to be involved. It would mean the world to her if you just let her help with a few things." The old pressure was back, squeezing my chest. Jake's voice echoed in my head, "Don't do it, Em. It's a trap." But the years of conditioning, of being the peacemaker, were too strong. "Okay, Mom," I sighed in defeat. "I'll share the itinerary with her." It was the biggest mistake I could have made. Sharing the itinerary wasn't enough for Cassie. She wanted control. She created a new family group chat on WhatsApp, cheekily titled Hawaii Dream Team, and pointedly left me out. She then began a systematic campaign to dismantle my carefully crafted gift and rebuild it in her own image. The first casualty was the scuba diving. I found out when I received a terse email confirming my cancellation. I called the company, my heart pounding with confusion. "Yes, ma'am," the agent said. "A Ms. Cassie Morgan called yesterday. She said the family had a change of plans and wanted to book a private shopping tour instead." I saw red. I called Cassie, my voice shaking with rage. "Why did you cancel the scuba trip?" "Oh, that," she said, as if she were talking about the weather. "Scuba is so basic, Em. And who wants to get their hair wet?" I booked a tour of all the luxury designer outlets instead. "Mom will love that way more." It was a blatant lie. My mom hates shopping. But when I called my parents to complain, they were already under Cassie's spell. "Oh, Emily, don't make a fuss," my dad said. "It's nice that she's taking an interest." It was a hostile takeover. The sunrise hike was replaced by a professional beach photoshoot with a photographer who specialized in influencer content. The authentic luau was swapped for reservations at a ridiculously expensive, sceney restaurant that was famous on TikTok. Every change was a downgrade in substance and an upgrade in superficiality. Every phone call to my parents was met with the same frustrating refrain, "Stop being so controlling, Emily. You should be grateful she's helping. Just let her have this." I felt like I was screaming into a void. This beautiful, heartfelt gift was being twisted into a tacky, self-serving backdrop for Cassie's social media feed. But the final, unforgivable act of betrayal was still to come. 2 days before our departure, I was doing a final check of my documents when an email landed in my inbox. The subject line from the airline was simple and devastating: "Your flight itinerary has been cancelled." The world tilted on its axis. It had to be a system error. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely dial the airline's number. After an eternity on hold, a calm voice delivered the verdict. "Yes, ma'am. The ticket for Emily Morgan was cancelled online this morning, using the login credentials for your account." My account? How could she? And then the memory hit me, cold and sharp. An old notebook from high school, tucked away in my desk drawer in my childhood bedroom. A stupid, careless list of early, simple passwords. She must have gone snooping. She had stolen my password and hacked my email. I hung up, the phone feeling like a lead weight in my hand. I dialed her number. There was no pretense of sweetness in her voice now. It was pure, smug triumph. "Oh, you found out?" she gloated. "Yeah, I cancelled it. We all had a talk, and we decided it would be for the best. You're just so negative and controlling, Em. Honestly, your bad vibes would ruin the whole vacation for everyone." The phrase "we all had a talk" echoed in the sudden silence of my apartment. "What do you mean, we all?" I whispered. "I mean Mom and Dad, duh," she said with a scoff. They agreed. "They think you need a little time out." I ended the call without another word. I immediately called Jake, my voice breaking. He was incandescent with rage. "What? No! That's a complete lie, Em. She never spoke to me. I would never agree to that." I believed him instantly. But my parents? I called them with a sense of dread. My dad answered. His voice was shifty, evasive. "Well, honey," he stammered, "it's not that we agreed, exactly. Cassie was just very concerned that you were so stressed out, and she thought maybe it would be better if you stayed home to relax." He didn't deny it. They knew. They knew their youngest daughter planned to steal a $50,000 vacation and kick her sister, the one who paid for it, to the curb. And they hadn't said no. They had let it happen. That was the moment the dam broke. All the years of swallowing my feelings, of accepting the injustice, of being the good daughter, it all came crashing down. I collapsed onto my living room floor and I sobbed. I sobbed with a grief so profound it felt like a physical wound. I was grieving for the little girl who was never believed, for the teenager whose passions were dismissed, and for the woman who had just learned, in the cruelest way possible, that her love and generosity had a price tag, and it was apparently less than a first-class ticket to Hawaii. The crying jag lasted for what felt like hours. But as the tears subsided, something else took their place. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was a cold, hard, diamond-like clarity. A rage so pure and focused it burned away all the hurt. They thought I was negative. They thought I was controlling. They had no idea. My hands were perfectly steady as I picked up my phone. I went to the airline's website. I logged in. I pulled up the reservation for the Morgan party. For tickets to paradise. And one canceled ticket. Mine. With a series of calm, deliberate clicks, I executed my counterstrike. I didn't cancel their trip. That would have been an emotional reaction. This was strategy. I found Cassie's ticket. I clicked cancel. The system confirmed it. Then, I used the flight credit from her ticket to book a new one. In my name. I changed the account password to a 32-character string of random letters, numbers, and symbols. Then, I opened my messaging app. I found the screenshot I had taken of the Hawaii Dream Team chat, the one where Cassie was bragging about her upgrades. I forwarded it to our original family group chat. And then I sent my own message. It was short, sharp, and to the point. Since Cassie, with the apparent approval of Mom and Dad, has decided I am not welcome on the trip I paid for, I have made a small but necessary adjustment to the travel plans. Cassie's ticket has been cancelled. The flight leaves in 48 hours. I will be on it. Anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to stay home and keep her company. Please advise. I turned my phone on silent. For 30 glorious minutes, there was peace. Then, I turned it back on. It was a war zone. Dozens of missed calls. A flood of texts. Jake called first. "You are an absolute legend," he said, and I could hear the genuine admiration in his voice. Then came the frantic, angry calls from my parents. I ignored them. And then, the symphony from Cassie. It was a masterclass in narcissistic rage, moving seamlessly from threats, "You will regret the day you were born," to insults, "You're a jealous, ugly itchy," to pathetic, tear-filled voice notes, "How could you do this to me? I thought you loved me." I listened to everyone, and the cold, hard knot in my stomach just tightened. I felt nothing. Finally, a call from my dad. He sounded like a defeated man. "Emily, this is insane. This has to stop. I'm setting up a conference call. You, me, your mother, and Cassie. We are going to talk this out like a family." "Fine," I said, my voice like ice. A few minutes later, the call connected. "Okay, Cassie, you're on with me and your mother," my dad began, his voice strained. "Now, I want you to apologize to your sister." But Cassie, believing I wasn't on the line yet, cut him off with a venomous hiss. "Apologize? Apologize for what? I don't have to apologize to that psycho B**********. She deserved it. She was going to ruin the entire trip with her stupid, controlling, boring plans. I did the right thing." A deafening silence fell over the call. It was the sound of a 30-year illusion shattering. In that moment, my parents heard their perfect angel for who she truly was. After a long, agonizing pause, my dad's voice, now small and broken, said, "Cassie. Emily. Emily is on the line." The sharp, panicked intake of breath from Cassie was the only victory I needed. It was the sound of checkmate. The call ended. My dad called me back a minute later, alone this time. Emily. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "I am so sorry." "I know, Dad," I said, my voice void of emotion. "The flight leaves at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I will be at the airport. I hope to see you and Mom there." I hung up. The ball was in their court. The next morning was surreal. I drove to the airport, half convinced I would be flying alone. I checked my bag, went through security, and walked to the gate. And there they were. My mom, my dad, and Jake. They looked haggard, as if they hadn't slept. Cassie was nowhere in sight. The look in my parents' eyes was a painful cocktail of shame, regret, and sorrow. The flight was the quietest 9 hours of my life. But as we descended into Maui, and the island appeared below us like a jewel in the blue ocean, something shifted. The sheer, overwhelming beauty of the place was a balm. When we arrived at the resort, with its open-air lobby and the scent of plumeria in the air, I saw my mom's shoulders relax for the first time in days. That week was a strange and wonderful dream. We did everything I had originally planned. We took the helicopter tour, and I watched my parents transform back into the young, adventurous couple from their honeymoon photo. We had the anniversary dinner on the beach, and they held hands and cried as the violinist played their wedding song. We snorkeled with giant sea turtles, and I heard my dad laugh, a real, deep belly laugh, for the first time in ages. All the while, Cassie's presence was a constant, angry buzz in our pockets. She sent a relentless stream of texts to all of us. They were masterpieces of manipulation, swinging wildly from furious accusations to tearful pleas for forgiveness, to passive-aggressive posts on Instagram about being abandoned. For the first time, we were a united front. We ignored them all. The family's emotional center was no longer Cassie's latest drama. It was us. It was healing. On our last night, sitting on the balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, my mom turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Emily," she said, her voice thick. "Thank you for this. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry we didn't see it sooner. We failed you." It was the validation I had stopped hoping I would ever receive. Coming home was like waking from a dream. Cassie had blocked us all. She vanished from family gatherings. Olivia reported that Cassie was telling everyone a wildly fabricated story in which she was the tragic heroine and we were the villains. My grandma Martha, in her infinite wisdom, just shrugged. The trash took itself out, she said. My parents changed. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic transformation. It was small things. They started calling me just to chat. They asked for my advice on a financial decision. They celebrated a small promotion Jake got at work with a special dinner. They were learning to be parents to all their children, not just one. About 3 months after the trip, the inevitable implosion began. Jake called me, half amused, half exasperated. Cassie had called him, begging for money. She had been fired from her coffee shop job for chronic lateness and a bad attitude. She had even pitched Jake on co-financing a new family trip to Mexico, pointedly excluding me. He laughed in her face. Then came the call from Cassie's landlord. She was 4 months behind on rent and facing eviction. My parents, still feeling a residual pull of responsibility, called her. She admitted she'd spent her rent money on a new wardrobe. She didn't ask for a loan. She demanded they let her move back home. And that's when my father, finally, drew the line in the sand. No, Cassie, he said, his voice firm in a way I had never heard him use with her. You are 24 years old. You are an adult. We love you, but we will not enable you anymore. You cannot move home. She unleashed her full arsenal, tears, threats, accusations that they never loved her. But they held their ground. Her last-ditch effort was a call to Jake, begging him to borrow money from me to give to her, because, in her words, asking Emily directly will just feed her massive ego. The eviction notice was served. Her friends, tired of her drama and her inability to take responsibility, stopped letting her crash on their couches. She had burned every bridge. Which brings us back to my front door. 6 months after Hawaii, there she was, the prodigal daughter with nowhere left to go. She cried. She begged. She blamed me. This is all your fault. You always wanted my life to be ruined. I looked at my little sister, this person who had caused me a lifetime of quiet pain, and the anger was gone. All I felt was a hollow sadness. No, Cassie, I said, my voice gentle but firm. This isn't my fault. This is the bill for your choices finally coming due. I didn't let her in. I couldn't. It would have undone everything. But I didn't turn her away with nothing. I gave her the number for a local women's shelter and a crisis counselor. I told her that if she was truly ready to change, that was where she needed to start. Not with me. Not with Mom and Dad. But with herself. She spat on the ground near my feet, called me a monster, and stormed off into the night, screaming that I would regret it. That was a few months ago. We had our weekly family dinner last Sunday. It was peaceful. Jake and I were locked in a fierce Mario Kart battle. My parents were on the couch, reading and laughing softly. For the first time, our family felt healthy. The peace was real, earned through boundaries, not bought with my silence. I don't know what happened to Cassie. I hope she called that shelter. I hope she's getting help. I hope, one day, she'll understand. But I've finally accepted that it's not my job to fix her. My job was to fix the dynamic that was breaking all of us. And in doing so, I finally found my own peace. Thanks for listening to my story. It's been a wild ride, and I'm really curious to know, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more.